I'm Faiz Shakir.
I'm Amanda Littman, and this is Battleground.
This week on Battleground, Amanda Littman, my co-host, is getting hitched, so she is not around. I'll be talking with political philosopher and social justice expert Michael Sandel of Harvard University. Professor Sandel, welcome to the Battleground podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be with you. It's good to meet you finally after our exchanges.
You've written a wonderful new book called The Tyranny of Merit, and so I am eager to have this conversation with you. We're shaped by values that often are injected to us by family, by media shows around us, by politics, schools, a variety of factors. And one of those, always constantly applying this gentle pressure on us about how we might think in the society that we're in. And one of those values that has become imbued, particularly in modern American society, is that, hey, you work hard, you rise to the top, right? If you just pull yourself by your bootstraps, it's really just a matter of work ethic. If you work hard, you're going to get there and you can become a billionaire like Elon Musk or something. If not a meritocracy, if not, fierce battles, right? One-upsmanship over one another, trying to push each other down. What is the aspirational way in which we should think about relating to one another in a society?
It's worth distinguishing two different problems with meritocracy as we have it today. The first, and the most familiar, is that we don't live up to the meritocratic principles we profess. The idea of meritocracy says, very simply, that if chances are equal, the winners deserve their winnings. Well, chances are not equal, far from it. So the project of creating genuine equality of opportunity is far from complete, far from realized. But the second problem with meritocracy is that even if we could achieve it, even if we could realize a perfect meritocracy, the ideal itself is flawed. Why would even a perfect meritocracy be flawed? Because it's corrosive of the common good. And the reason it's corrosive of the common good is a meritocracy generates attitudes towards success that lead almost inescapably to the divide between winners and losers. Because if we really do earn our place, our success, our achievements, and the rewards the market showers upon the successful, if that's true, as it would be in a perfect meritocracy, then the successful can believe their success is their own doing, the measure of their merit, something they deserve, and by implication, that those who struggle must deserve their fate as well. This is the logic, the moral logic, if you think about it, of a perfectly realized meritocracy. Perfecting the meritocracy is not an adequate answer to inequality. And it would not make for either a just society or a good society, a healthy, flourishing democracy.
There's this commentary in the public about, or in elite media, or you hear it on CNBC, there's a labor shortage out there, right? There's a labor shortage. But in fact, in my observation, what is going on is you see these heroes, the essential workers, standing up in a way that we may have not seen in prior generations and saying that condition in that workplace, if it is not paying me a living wage, if it is not providing childcare, I'm going to choose no. I'm going to say that if that employer doesn't raise the bar for me, I will find someone else to work for, or I will stay home. And I think that revolution is a healthy thing.
Yes, I think it's encouraging for all the reasons that you've just suggested. But there's a subtler shift that I've noticed, which takes us back to the hold of meritocratic and technocratic ways of thinking about the economy and about government over the past 4 decades. Joe Biden, when he was nominated, became the first Democratic nominee for president in 36 years without an Ivy League degree.
I say it's about time that a state school president sat in the Oval Office.
He seems to be less wedded to the meritocratic solution to structural inequality. Because what has the Democratic Party, the mainstream Democratic Party, had to offer over the past 4 decades in response to the widening inequality? Instead of confronting it directly and dealing with inequalities of income and wealth and power, what they've offered instead the idea of individual upward mobility through higher education, as if that were a satisfactory answer to 4 decades of wage stagnation and job loss. If you want to compete and win in the global economy, we were told, go get a college education. What you earn will depend on what you learn. You can make it if you try. We heard these slogans again and again. Now, on the face of it, it's inspiring to encourage people to go get a college degree in hopes of individual upward mobility. But as a response to inequality, it's woefully inadequate. Not only that, there's an implicit insult in it. The insult is this: if you didn't go to university, and if you're struggling in the new economy, your failure is your fault. You didn't pull yourself up. You didn't improve yourself sufficiently to compete in the global economy. That insult took a toll. And it took a toll especially on the support of working people for the Democratic Party, so that by 2016, the Democratic Party was more attuned to the interests and outlook and values of the well-educated, well-credentialed professional classes than to the blue-collar voters who, since the New Deal, constituted its base.
Can I interrupt right there, Professor?
Yeah.
Because you have this paragraph in your book, more than any other aspect of his political rhetoric, you write, President Obama's constant talk of quote-unquote smart policies highlighted the connection between technocracy and meritocracy. For Obama, quote-unquote smart was the ultimate term of praise. He used the words, quote unquote, smart diplomacy, smart foreign policy, smart regulations, smart growth, smart climate policy, and so on and so forth. There's a lot more examples of it. But I do think that what you've hit on there is the way, it's not just the language. These ideas are not necessarily populist in that they will help everybody rise or, it will help the working class succeed. It is that they are smart. And because they are smart, they appeal to a certain portion of this populace more. And that rhetoric, I assume you believe, Biden has kind of moved away from, but that is what you're really confronting in many ways, right? In policy design and policy articulation, this idea that we target it to the smart and we do things in a quote unquote smart way.
Yes. And this rhetoric creeps up on us so subtly for a time that we scarcely notice it. But what's damaging about it is it encourages a technocratic way of conceiving the public good. If the choice between this public policy and that is simply figuring out which one is the smart one, or the efficient one, or the one that the experts would endorse, this relegates decision-making to experts, to technocrats, to the credentialed, to people who can identify the smart policies. And by implication, it drains politics of ideological contest and conviction. And it leads to a kind of complacence also among those who think it's enough to describe a policy as smart from making the argument, the moral and civic argument for this tax policy or that tax policy. And this credentialism also has, almost without our noticing it, shaped who gets to be in representative government. Those of us who spend our time in the company of the credentialed can easily forget that most Americans do not have a 4-year college degree. Nearly
2/3, right? I believe, of the American workforce.
Nearly 2/3 do not. Look at the backgrounds of people who are in the Senate and in the Congress, in the House, and for that matter, in state legislatures. So the majority of Americans don't have a 4-year college degree. Almost none of them, just a tiny handful of them, make their way into elected office. And the result is that working people constitute about half of the country. But they only account for 2%, people with backgrounds in working class background, 2% of the members of Congress, and even in state legislatures, which would seem to be closer to the people, only 3%. It generates resentments because this does not go unnoticed. One of the most potent sources of Trump's appeal was his appeal to grievances, the sense that elites are looking down on us.
When they talk about the elite. Do you ever see the elite? They're not elite. You're the elite. You are the elite.
This sense of grievance, of demoralization, of humiliation, of anger was not misplaced. There was plenty in Trump's political appeal that was odious and racist. But his ability to tap in to this sense of grievance, Democrats had better figure out the source of those grievances.
Thanks for watching. You can get the full episode of Battleground on the Recount streaming daily or listen to it wherever you get your podcasts.